Hey everyone, it's Ellen Juddy, your PLC lead for high school dance on the Godot Communities website. Can't believe it is April already. I hope you guys are into your shows. Maybe they're over by now, or you're just working your way up to your spring show. Mine's in about 2 weeks. I thought with all the stress of the end of the year and shows and grade books and all that kind of stuff that we could wind down with yoga. So back in 2006, I pursued my 200-hour yoga certification. It was at Kashi, Atlanta, and that's an ashram yoga studio in Little Five Points. The certification is in classical yoga or hatha yoga. I started doing yoga in the early 2000s simply because my body just was broken from dancing, 7 days a week. So I needed some healing. So another dancer convinced me to try a class, and I liked it. And so I've always used yoga as a restorative practice rather than exercise or hardcore anything. So it made me feel so much better, and it always does make me feel much better. The program that I went through wasn't one of those weekend programs. It was 6 months. So it was a total immersion in the history of yoga. We did the anatomy of each pose. They even taught us about the spiritual side of yoga. So it was a pretty in-depth certification. So I actually did teach yoga classes after I got certified, mostly adults at the dance studios that I was teaching at the time. But as I stopped doing that, I just inserted into my dance classes, basically. And generally speaking, before we're working on show stuff, we will do yoga every Thursday in class here at Brookwood. And the kids like it. I turn one of the lights off. And I play, I just go to whatever, I use Spotify, but whatever other music you use, and I just look up yoga music and put something on. And they really like that. They, especially since the pandemic, I think everybody, kids, adults included, need something like this just to sort of, calm down, take a moment, breathe. So I do have a set of yoga mats in my dance studio. But if you don't have mats, you can always ask the students to bring a towel. And of course, if that fails, you could just do it on the dance floor. We're dancers. We're on the floor all the time. Or you could have them bring a piece of clothing. If you're going to do something on your hands and knees or something that would really grind into the dance floor, you could always just, have a jacket or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a fancy yoga mat. So this segment is going to be about breathing, warm up, and some simple stretches. And then segment 2 will be strengthening and balancing poses. And then segment 3 will be winding down and shavasana. So the 3 webinars put together would be a full class, at least a full class for what I would do. Okay, so I will make a list of what I'm doing on the web in this webinar. I'll do bullet points, and I'll put it in the document section. So mostly I start an easy pose, which is your crisscross applesauce. I have my notes all the time for these webinars. So crisscross applesauce, I always say long spine. So crown of the head reaches toward the ceiling. Hands draped over the knees. If they're comfortable, I always say they should close their eyes, but some of them aren't comfortable with their eyes closed, so that's just up to them. And then I always just start with deep breaths in through the nose, out through the nose. And that's a little bit different than maybe other exercise where you inhale through the nose and then exhale out the mouth. There are some breaths like that that you exhale through the mouth, but most of the stuff that I'll do today is just breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. Breathing is very important, of course, in dance and in yoga. So there's so many different breathing techniques that I learned in the certification. I have found 4 that will make teenagers laugh. So the first one is literally just deep breathing. So like I said, closing your eyes, inhaling, fill the belly with air, and then exhale. pull the belly button in through the spine. So that's your deep breathing. And I'll usually start class like that and just ask them to, be mindful of how their body feels, deep breathing. You can hold the breath. So you can inhale. So what I did there was I inhaled and I held the breath in for as long as I could without being uncomfortable. And then I exhaled, really pressed the navel point back to the spine, and then held the breath out for as long as it was comfortable. So that's another one. The sighing breath, I love this one. Now this one does exhale through the mouth, and I usually do it with a shoulder shrug. So this one goes inhale, now they will laugh and chuckle at that a little bit, but if you do it like 10 or 15 times, sort of you pick up the pace as you go, it makes them feel really good. So they might laugh and chuckle at first, but it's a good one. The last one I picked to show you was called the crocodile breath. And this one lays on your stomach. So this might be something that you do at the end of class. Usually I start class sitting up. But this one is basically you're laying on your stomach. And you can have your hands here, forehead on your hands. And you're literally just inhaling and pressing your belly into the floor. And there should be like almost a visible rise. So, like I said, you can end class with that, or, depending on how you do things in your stretch classes, you can start that at the beginning. So those are the 4 breathing techniques: deep breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. The deep breathing while you're holding your breath for the inhale, and then for the exhale, as long as it's comfortable. The sighing breath, I do it with the shoulder shrug. And then the crocodile breath that is on the belly and just presses the belly into the floor as you inhale. And then as you exhale, you just release everything. So those are the breathing techniques. Now, of course, we're breathing the whole time as we're doing this. So I did the warm-up sequence, would just be some neck rolls, easy neck rolls around. And then the breath cue for this would be inhaling the chin to the ceiling, exhaling chin to the chest. And of course, in both directions. Pacing for yoga and all these stretches, that sort of depends on you and your students. I usually do things for about 3 deep breaths, or hold stretches for about 3 deep breaths. The number 3 seems to work well for me in yoga, so I'll do 3 head rolls in each direction. And then this is a good one, going from the top down. So I have my hands behind my head here, and I have a nice long spine. I inhale, and then I exhale and contract and round the spine. So I'm really tucking everything in, and the weight of my hands is stretching out the back of my neck. And then my inhale lifts up, pulls my chin up, presses the shoulders down, elbows back, and then exhaling is rounding again. So we move back and forth this way, and there's never a rhythm or a count. It's always sort of on their own breath. So this is a really good one to warm up the upper spine. So I call that the neck spine contract release. And then of course, shoulder rolls. You can do both. You can do one at a time. You can go forward and back. Next to moving through it would be angel wings, where you press the palms together, real tension in the hands, inhaling, reaching back as far as you possibly can to get those shoulders, and then big circle. Breathing cue for that would be inhaling, reaching back, and exhaling. I needed this today. Moving right along, circling the body. I always say, envision you have a hula hoop around you. My hands are on my knees, and I'm going to take my belly button, and I'm going to try to scrape it along the hula hoop. So I come around, and I get into that middle and lower spine, and I'm making a big circle, inhaling as you're sort of a flat back, and then exhaling as you're in a contraction, and moving it forward like this. A lot of the times they'll like do this, so it's really small, but it really, in order to get the full goodness of this, it needs to be big. That's why I always use the image of a hula hoop. And then, of course, you go both directions. And then your seated spinal twist, I always stay here, and I'll just take one hand over the knee, lift the spine, and twist, and take the focus to the back. I'm not going to take the focus to the back, to the back wall. And then inhaling through the center, exhaling as you stretch and twist. And then I'll usually, like I said, 3 breaths usually work for me in a position. So then I'll inhale, lifting the spine even more. And each time I exhale, I try to twist a little bit more. And then last one in easy pose or your side stretches. So side to side, I usually have to remind the kids to make sure that both hips stay on the floor, both sits bones stay on the floor. I'll exhale to the stretch. I'll inhale up and exhale over and up. So that's the beginning one. Some other simple stretches with my legs out, because about now then you need to get the legs moving. So we sit up tall, see my feet. So we do the wrists and ankles. So inhaling, pointing the feet, exhaling, flex. And excuse my boy socks from Target. And exhale, and inhaling, really pressing the wrist down, and then exhaling. And then I always twist them around in circles. In order to really get into the ankles, because the kids will want to do all this, I just say isolate the ankles. So, I mean, if you want to do a round that way, I usually go one than the other. So just isolating the ankles. Hip rocking. So I'm here in a little bit of a wider angle and just sort of loosening up these hips for a little bit. And this is, they ain't got to work anything. They just got to let those hips go in and out, get the joints moving. And then you can do the same thing with the hip rocking with the knees bent. So they're about wider than hip width. And then I just drop the knees down. Inhaling through the center, exhaling when you drop the knee. And drop the knee. So that's my hip rocking with the knee bent. Let's see, what is next? We will do the head to knee pose. So that is the arch of your foot fits in the curve of your knee, and I'm sitting up nice and tall. I usually make them flex their foot where my heel is off, where I'm really pressing my heel towards the mirror or towards the front of the room. I lift up, inhale out of the waist, and then I go over in a flat back as far as I can, and then let everything relax. Head to knee, obviously some dancers won't be able to get their heads to their knee. Some people will be able to fold over completely flat. And then I usually have them roll up through the spine. Inhale, exhale with a nice roll of the shoulders. And of course, that's both sides. And then we will go with the seated forward bend, which is an inhale up again. Same thing, I make them lift out of the waist, go to a flat back. This depends also. Some might be able to go really far with a flat back. This is about all I can go right now. And then fold forward and just sort of hang like a rag doll. Next on this list is just the wide angle. So your garden variety second position. I always just say keep the knees to the ceiling. We're not going to let anything rock in, and then just walk forward as much as they can. Again, some will barely be able to do this, and then some will probably lay their torso flat on the floor. Those days are over for me. So yeah, and then you can do a wide angle balance if you so desire. So then you would grab the inside of the ankle, the heel, and then you would find that balance. Watch me be able to do this, and then find this balance here, and hold that and breathe. I guess that would depend on, what level you're doing if you wanted to try that. So that is my segment 1, and this is the breathing and the warm-up sequence, and then just the simple stretches. So I will be back with strengthening and balancing poses next time. All right, thanks.